Hey everybody, this is Nick Baldwin, and today I'm being joined by UFC middleweight Chris Curtis, who waited 11 years and 35 professional bouts to make his UFC debut. He did so at UFC 268 at MSG in New York City 8 days ago, recording a upset win over Phil Hawes, first round knockout. Unbelievable result. What a story, what a moment, and he's here to talk all about it and more. Chris, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm really good, man. Just tired, but still just enjoying life at the moment.
Tired because we're recording at 8 o'clock at night, or because you've been busy over the past 8 days?
No, it's only 5 o'clock in Vegas, man. I went back. We flew home that Sunday, and I was back in the gym on Monday, man. So it's just regular training week. So Sunday is always a hard one,
There you
and
go.
just a little tired from Sunday and a long week, but back at it. I'll live.
Was that the plan, to get right back into training regardless of what happened on November 6th?
I always go right back to training. I don't like to take time off. Hell, my PFL fight, my first knockout loss ever, I sparred the next day. And I was like, all right, I'm fine. Probably not the greatest idea in terms of longevity and saving my brain, but I don't really take time off, man. I've been training 7 days a week for the last 8, 9 years, so I don't really give myself too much time off. I
Fair
just
enough.
like being ready.
Yeah. So you've had a week or so to process this win over Phil Hawes, to process the fight, process how it played out. What's going through your head 8 days later? What does it all feel like to be a UFC fighter and be a 1-0 UFC fighter?
8 days later, it doesn't really feel like anything, man. It's feels like okay. The first 2 or 3 days, I got to have I got to celebrate and be happy and kind of live in the moment. But once Tuesday hit for practice and whatnot, I'm in that mindset to where, especially in MMA, you have to remember no one cares. You're like people, fans, and people in general have a very short memory. So yeah, I did something cool, but now no one cares, and I gotta go back to getting ready for people wanting to beat me up. So it was really cool to have that moment and everything else, and just live in it, and finally accomplish something I've been trying to do for a long time. But now it's just right back to work because there's people out there who want to punch my face in, and I kind of like my face.
Did you know that's how it would be going into this fight? Like you're going into it thinking, okay, I'm going to win this fight. I'm going to probably finish Phil Hawes. It's going to be a cool story, cool moment, but that only lasts for so long. There's a lot of other big fights on the card. We already have had another event. Like the MMA train just keeps rolling. Did you know that going in, that your few minutes of really enjoying the moment only can last so long?
Yeah, man. Honestly, it was my 35th professional fight. Like I'm 27-8 right now. It's my 35th pro fight. I've had a lot of success and a lot of celebrations, but you take those few days to enjoy it or lick your wounds, depending on what side of the coin you're on. And then you got to get to go back to it because, if I take a month off of training and go run around Miami and do dumb shit, the guy, whoever I'm fighting next, probably isn't doing that. And I train a lot. I train a whole lot. I get told way too often I train too much. But in my head, I always have to, I train too much because I'm always imagining the guy I'm fighting is doing more than me. So if I go take 4 weeks off to go, sightseeing, vacation, and do stuff, I'm losing time. I'm losing time. And at 34, I can't afford to lose time anymore. So goal was go back in there, get the win, hopefully not be injured, and get right back to it. And it's just how I've always done it. It's how I've done pretty much my entire career. And this one just so happened to go the same way.
So we spoke before the fight, and you told me that you didn't quite feel like a UFC fighter just yet because you hadn't had that first win, particularly, and you, of course, hadn't made that first octagon walk at all. Now that you did get that first win, now that you did get a UFC victory, I guess it's fair to say that you do feel like a UFC fighter. Am I right?
Yeah, I finally get to have that feeling if I can say, I'm a UFC vet. I always say you can't really claim that status until you've had your first win, you had your first W. To have a first W, so regardless of what happens here, I can, I get to use those fun UFC veteran credentials behind your name to let you do stuff and give you just a badge of respect. But at the same time, like you pick a UFC fighter, now I'm like, okay, now I have to not lose any steam, no missteps. You got to keep grinding away at it because being a UFC fighter now, the whole world's looking at you and they're like, well, what are you going to do next? And if you fail, the internet will let you know.
How did fight week go for this fight? Was it relaxed? Was it hectic because it was your first one? You have a lot of things you got to get in order. How would you describe how the days leading up to the fight went?
Oh, my fight week was fine, man. Like I said, this is my 35th fight. Like I've done this walk it's rodeo a long time. We got to New York. Weight was never a problem for this fight. So I literally spent like 4 or 5 days about 4 days walking around New York with Sean Strickland and my manager, Lance Bowder. We just walked around New York for forever, did stuff, worked out a little bit. It was just very chill, man. It's actually kind of boring. I was getting like stir crazy, sitting around. I brought my Nintendo Switch. I was regretting not bringing my PS4 because I was like, oh, God, there's nothing to do. Like New York's a giant shopping mall. In the city is a giant shopping mall. So unless you're going around buying stuff, you're kind of stuck in a hotel. Well, my fight week was chill, man. There's no stress, nothing. My weight was good. Workouts were fine. Got to hang out with friends. I had a great time, man. It was, I a big believer in like as weird as it sounds, people go, that's bullshit, but I don't really get nervous during fight week anymore. Because like it's no matter how much anxiety you have about something, it's not gonna change what happens next. So while a long time ago I just decided like my fight weeks are gonna be fun, man. I'm not gonna drive myself crazy. I'm not gonna have all this stress. I'm just gonna have fun, man. Like we watch movies, play games, we try to go out and do stuff. But I can be nervous when they close the cage. Like that's when, like it starts to happen. You make your walk, you go out there. As it's happening, I allow myself to be nervous. But before that, I'm not going to stress myself out over something that, like no amount of anxiety is going to change the fact that you're in a fight. You're going to be in a fight in a few days. So why worry about it? It's like you don't allow it to be a thing anymore.
So as you're making that walk out to the octagon, MSG, big crowd, obviously the Mecca of MMA, one of the most famous arenas in the world, for your UFC debut, which is long anticipated, years in the making. What's going through your head as you're walking out to the cage?
I gave myself one of my coaches at Extreme, Eric Nipsick, told me to. He said, no matter what, man, he said you've earned this. You've earned this time. You've earned this walk. So he told me when I go out there, take a second to enjoy it. He's like, just enjoy it, breathe it in. Like you've worked really hard for this. So my first thing when I walked, as the walk started, I kind of just let myself enjoy the moment, man. Like this is what I've been grinding for over a decade. Like this is it. So I kind of got to enjoy it for a second and just breathe it in, the atmosphere. And then immediately after, there's like no joy and excitement about it. You're like, all right, I got to go not get fucked up now. Like that's always my thought of fight. Like I really got to, like, man, like I'm looking at one of the weirdest things I've seen the cameras. And I'm like, man, if I lose, this is going to be everywhere. Like, oh my God. I was like, you know what? Don't fuck up, Chris.
Yeah. As far as the actual fight and how it played out, how were you feeling about, earlier in the first round before the knockout happened? I think like even the commentators were kind of saying it felt like you were having a bit of trouble just getting out of first gear and really letting go. Do you think that's accurate? How did you feel about the minutes?
Hey, so the fun thing is we knew Phil was going to be bigger than me, stronger than me, and he had the wrestling credentials. So we're like, okay, that's beware of that. He came out. The only thing was he was faster than I expected. He was a lot faster than I expected, and his striking improved a lot. So it's not so much I had a problem getting out of first gear. The first 2 combos I threw, he just punched through. So I was like, you know what? That's just going heads up is not a thing anymore. The original game plan was to, pressure him, use like front kicks to keep him from shooting, make him think about shooting and like keep pressure on him. He came out, pressured me, and started front kicking me. One of those front kicks went like right between my ribs. And I was like, oh, that's a great plan. I'm a genius. Because that was my plan. He just did it first. I was like, oh, I'm a genius. It's a great plan. So in the beginning, man, like, it just sucked because I was like, okay, I'm kind of outgunned here. It's one of those things to where when you fight a better athlete, you're like, well, this isn't what I was hoping it would be. But it was fine. Like I've been in a lot of fights. I train with some of the best people in the world. It's not the first time I've been in a fight and I'm like, well, I'm outgunned for a moment. I'm like, fine. I coming from boxing, which is I was talking to somebody about this the other day. MMA isn't really a sport where you have defensive specialists. Like coming from boxing, it's very common to see defensive fighters. Like I'm a very defensive. I can go from pressure to defensive. Like, doesn't matter. It's just how I fight. It's very common in boxing, but you don't see that in MMA. So when you kind of have to take your foot off the gas and weather the storm and wait for a guy to slow down or find your shots, people are like, "Oh my God, you're not doing anything," because MMA, everyone's like, blood sport, go, go, go. But from my perspective, I'm fighting a guy who's bigger than me, he's stronger than me, and apparently he's faster than me too. So I can either rush in and try to go heads up and get clipped. I can rush in, just start throwing, and he panics and shoots and not have to work from the bottom. Or I can move around, I can move, I can block, I can roll, I can take reads and kind of get comfortable, get my timing down, find his timing down. And most importantly, we knew that he would slow down. Like Phil's a big, big dude. It's hard to move that much mass that long, especially, he's always had cardio problems. So we were like, well, if we can get him to slow down, the fight's a lot easier. So sometimes you have to wait. Like people are like, oh, he's out here killing you. I didn't take any damage. Like I had a scratch on my face. That was it. That was the extent of the damage I took. So, people tend to just they look at it as like, if you're not going heads up, if you're not doing the Max Holloway and like throwing 1,000 punches and getting hit, you're losing. But like, I like my face. I like my brain. I consider myself a very intelligent fighter. So sometimes you kind of bite down, defend, protect yourself, and wait for a guy to slow down.
So then is it fair to say you were happy with how it was playing out? Even if maybe you weren't winning the round, like as you said, you're biding your time and it's a 3-round fight. Honestly,
going into that fight, we wanted to pressure him, but like the entire fight camp, we were well aware that we're probably going to lose the first round. We're like, even if we have our moments, he's too much of an athlete. I'm a very intelligent guy, a very intelligent fighter. I've been this for a long time, 35 fights. I've cornered I don't know how many hundreds of fights. You have to have, I'm 35, I'm 34, and I've been at this long because I'm very smart in how I approach things. In the entire camp, we were all like, yeah, you're probably going to lose. I'm probably going to lose the first round. Like, there's no point in trying to go heads up with a bigger, stronger dude than you in the first round. So the entire point of this camp was be patient, be smart, defend yourself, make him spend energy, don't get beat up. And after the first round, every fight we saw when we watched tape, he slows. He slows every single time. The output slows, his willingness to wrestle slows, he kind of settles back. He'll come out, he'll blitz. Second round, he settles down. So we were like, okay, that second round is where we can push him. Third round is where we thought we would finish him. So the entire camp, we were like, first round, we'll give up, we'll burn around, it's fine. Like, make him use energy. Even if you're on the back foot getting pushed around, make him spend energy. Second round, he slows down, we start tagging him more. Third round, we finish him.
Well, it didn't go that long. The finish happened in the first round. And when you land that big shot and he goes down and you win the fight, what's going through your head at that moment? What are the emotions as the fight ends and you're the winner?
In any fight, the moment you win, you're like, thank God I'm not on the other side of that. Like, that's everybody's first thought is, thank God that came, I wasn't on the other side of that. But even more so than that, man, it was just to finally first UFC win, on top of having Bruce Buffer announce you, so you're already partially there. Your first win, everyone in MSG is screaming, everyone's freaking out. Literally everyone's freaking out. And then Joe Rogan comes in, he's kind of freaking out. Then you get to hear Joe Rogan say, "Welcome to the UFC." I'm like, it's the first step. It's the latest step of a very long journey. And, I was finally getting over a milestone that I really need to get over. So it's just the first step. But, man, it's a damn good feeling to, finally hear those words and, have people see you do something amazing. I don't care what fighters say. A big reason why most of them do this is for the adoration, man. It's for the attention. We love that spotlight. We love to hear the crowd. And, to be in there, man, it's just – it's something that you can't describe to somebody unless they've done it.
This is a cliche question, but I'm kind of serious. Could this debut have gone any better for you? MSG, sold out crowd, upset win, first round knockout, Buffer announces your name, post fight interview with Rogan. Like, you checked all the boxes. Was there anything else? Like, could this have gone any better? Because I don't think so.
Only things I'd add on there is I would have liked not to get bullied around so much, because I'm like, damn it, that video exists everywhere now. You got people who don't understand. Like, I'm not getting hurt, but I'm still getting like moved around because Bill is the size of a small truck. So that sucked. And then the only other thing that made it better was a $50K bonus. I tried. I really tried. But I picked the absolute worst card to ever exist to try to get a bonus on, because everybody was out for blood that night. So it's just bad luck.
The UFC needs to introduce like a newcomer bonus of the night or something like that.
I'd be happy, man. But I picked the worst card of the year to try to get a bonus. So I was like, all right. Everyone came for blood that night. I'm just like, all right, that's fine.
Well, on that note, in looking back, what was it like fighting at MSG? It's where every fighter wants to fight. It was a big card, 2 title fights, Usman Covington, big rematch. What was the experience just as a whole of being part of this card?
I loved it, man. Like I always tell people, like, oh, how do you feel at Madison Square Garden? I'm like, guys, they say fighter, mixed martial arts and modern day gladiators. I'm like, if we're modern day gladiators, then like that's MSG is our biggest coliseum in Rome. It's the oldest coliseum in Rome. It's the one with the most history. It's where everybody wants to fight, because it has such a storied history. Especially like coming like with boxing as like my first love. It's a huge. I never got to box in MSG, but like, oh my god, I got to compete and win in Madison Square Garden. A full Madison Square Garden. I definitely I checked off like 6 bucket list items that night.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Going into this fight and sort of throughout fight week and in the weeks leading up to it, did you feel pressure just because it was this moment you've been waiting for so long, for like 12 years basically? Or was there not much pressure just because you were the underdog? You weren't expected to go out there and do what you did. Which way was it for you, or maybe neither?
It's kind of both and not at the same time, if that makes sense. Like for me, I could be fighting like Dan the Garbage Man, and I would still have a lot of pressure I put a lot of pressure on myself, on my own worst enemy. And I think I put pressure on myself because I expect a lot of myself, but that pressure makes me thrive. Like I realized a while ago, if I don't care, then I'm not going to perform the way I need to. So I've been criticized a lot by like my coaches and everything, is I fight to the level of the person that I'm fighting. They're like, sometimes we'll fight guys where you should just blow through them and you'll drag them for 3 rounds, 5 rounds, because, like you're fighting down. So for me, the more pressure I have, the better I perform. So as far as everyone's expectations, like, it's kind of weird because everyone I know expected a lot of me, but I didn't really think much about that. I think everyone else is just happy that I finally got in, because like this has been a crazy ride. But for me, no matter what I'm doing, man, I'm so hard on myself. I'm trying to get better at it, because like my hair is graying now. I stress myself out so much. So I'm trying to be better at like not doing it. But there's all of my pressure is just because I expect so much of myself, and like I hate myself when I don't perform. And going into this fight, man, I'm sitting here like, you either win this fight or you die trying, man. Like, I feel like I've always let myself down in big fights and big moments. And I'm like, never again. Like, why not you? Like, you've trained with some of the best guys in the world. You've beaten amazing guys. You've done amazing shit. Like, why not you? Like, I'm 35. I'm 34. I don't have more time to, like, mess around and come to grips with things. So I just told myself, why not you, Chris? Like, everyone else has their shot. Everyone gets their shine. Why not you? So this week I was like, no matter what, there's no quit in me. There's no fighting down. We're just going to go. So like, once again, there's always pressure because I'm the most unkind person to myself ever.
Do you feel like you proved to maybe even yourself, but especially people watching, MMA fans in general, that you are capable of winning the big one? Because, I mean, you did win the Contender Series fight, and that's a whole other story. We've talked about it before. But like the PFL fights, obviously that run didn't necessarily
Sideways.
go your way. Yeah, yes, that's what you said last time. This win was sort of the big, or this fight was kind of, looking back, the biggest you've had so far in your lengthy MMA career, and you did pull it off this time. Did you prove to yourself that you are capable of that in some ways?
And I knew that I would. So I knew that I would be. I knew that I could do it. I knew, nothing against Phil, but I knew I could beat Phil. I fought bigger, stronger guys many, many times. I knew I could do it. My biggest thing was like, I hate, and people are like, oh, you shouldn't care, but I hate when like fans I fight week, I'm bored in a hotel room, I'm going through fight predictions, and I keep hearing I don't show up to big fights, and I'm just like, I hate hearing that, because I'm like, because there are fights that haunt me still, to where I'm like, man, if only I was a little more there, I could have done, things could be different. And it was just good, for yourself. You always believe in yourself, but to have it manifest and like be tangible is important. But I think just as well, like I want other people to see, like, look, man, I'm not gonna choke on the big ones. Like this is the best I've ever been. A lot of things have changed in life, and I want to make really good use of what time is left. So it's definitely a big moment for me.
Yeah, and as I said off the top of this interview, like this was a big story in the sport overall. This was obviously a big moment for you. Do you hope that your journey and your story serves as inspiration for others and shows other people, maybe people just, rising stars or young fighters coming up, or maybe people in your shoes, veterans who haven't quite gotten over that hump quite yet, that they can do it, and that, regardless of whether they're 35 or 36 or 20 fights in or 30 fights in, that, you can make it, age is just a number. Like, do you hope that what you've been able to do inspires other people?
I do now, man. So here's the fun thing. I've never once thought about inspiring and motivating other people outside of like my son, because I want him to do well. I've never thought about being an inspiration to people or inspiring people, motivating people. And I have got so much an outpouring of just like messages and everything else that I love. And people are like, man, I got so many messages. People are like, things are going really bad in my life. I'm down and out. You just showed me like, you don't have to, it's not over till it's over. And for me, it was never something I thought about, but I'm getting so many messages and stuff about it. And I've responded to about 700 Instagram messages, wow, people inboxing me. And like, I'm just like, what's my first, whatever. I responded to every one I possibly could before I'm like, I'm going blind because like I'm staring at a screen all day. So it is pretty cool to see that like so many people took something from that. So like, I genuinely do hope that like, it does go to show, like, it's as cliched as it is. Thank you, Rocky. It's not over till it's over.
Is that in some ways the best part of this whole thing, that this win, you making to the UFC, that, being in the UFC and being able to call yourself a UFC veteran once you're done and old and retired, but the fact that you have had so many people sort of take something from this moment and reach out, like, that must, be very special to you, I would imagine.
It is. It's especially crazy because people don't realize how selfish of a sport MMA is. Like, to be an MMA fighter, it requires a certain like selfish tendencies to you to have as a person, because you take a lot from the people around you, and it's not really you. Like, yeah, you're doing the training and shit, whatever, cutting weight. But it's always it's the people around you and people that you love that suffer the most when you pursue this life path. So it's kind of cool to think like, in such a selfish sport, you're able to like give something of motivation to so many people. Like, that's really cool. That's not something I ever thought about. It's not something I ever thought that like I would do. And just to see that like, hey man, like people are just like, I appreciate that. And it made me want to keep fighting. Like, that's like, man, it's something I never expected, but it's a very, very good feeling.
Something you said after the fight that sort of made the headlines is that going into this fight, you said you were, quote, hilariously broke. And of course, at your post-fight presser, you made your case for that 50G bonus. Unfortunately, you didn't get it. But being in the UFC now, and making what I guess you would call UFC level money, what does that do for you and for your life? Like how big of a deal is this just from a financial standpoint?
From a financial standpoint, it's great. It's phenomenal because I just got in 5 minutes of actual like fight time, I just got myself back into the black and like money, put in the savings, everything else. Especially at 34, man. I've got a very short shelf life left. Maybe 4 to 6 years if I'm lucky. Like 6 if I'm absolutely lucky. I'm not Glover over here. So like I got a very short shelf life left. So be able to start putting money up for the future and everything else is a very nice very nice feeling, because like that's one of the big things you worry about as you start getting up there in age. Like, what am I going to do when it's done? Because Father Time's undefeated. He catches everybody. So it's nice to start having the opportunity to start building for my future instead of just struggling on a regional pair.
Yeah. A couple more things for you, Chris, before I let you go. And I know we've gone on for a while, so I appreciate the time.
I love it, man. I love it. You're always one of my fun ones.
The Phil Hawes fight, of course, as we talked about last time, was supposed to happen back in October. We don't need to exactly get into it. We talked about it before. But in hindsight, are you kind of glad that that fight was canceled? You got a bit more time to prepare, because maybe you wouldn't have been able to do what you did on November 6th back on October 9th on 24 hours notice. Like you weren't happy in October, but now looking back, you're like, hey, this worked out quite all right.
Wait. Yeah, I seriously, hats off to Phil Hawes. I'm not sure if he's a fortune teller or a freaking, a soothsayer. He can see the future. But him turning that down got us, on the biggest card of the year in Madison Square Garden. And, the 3 weeks, I felt pretty good going into the other one. My training didn't really change from then to now. Nothing in my training changed, really. It's just, we just have a little bit more time to fine tune, but nothing big. But to go from the Apex to Madison Square Garden, yeah, I am happy with that. Way to go, Phil Hawes.
One other thing we talked about before the fight was, whether or not you would go back down to 170 after this. You said it basically would depend on how you felt. So let me ask you, how did you feel at middleweight in this fight? First of all, and then secondly, what's the plan now?
I felt small. I felt real small, bro. So nothing was weirder than like we touch gloves, looking at Phil Hawes, and I'm like looking at him like he is huge. That's a huge, scary dude. Then I'm like, man, is that what it feels like to not be the scary black guy in the fight? Because normally I'm the big scary black guy. I looked at him, and I was like, Jesus, he's huge. I was like, ooh, this is a bad feeling. This is a real bad feeling. So that was kind of terrible, but I felt small, but I'm not exactly sure. We're not really sure what we're doing yet, because I actually offered to take an 85 fight on the last card, this last Saturday, yesterday, and then offered to take one on the December 11th against Andre Muniz or whatever, the number 15 guy.
Yeah.
So I think now with some time, almost some interest back in time, I'm going to talk to Lance Foudy and Jason House and really try to figure out like what the hell I'm doing, because I've been a welterweight for a long time, but as I get older, the weight gets harder to make. And fighting at 85 lately has been pretty great. I can eat more, I can train more, I'm not as moody, like I recover better. I'm not having to put my body through a like really rigorous like diet to make the weight. So I'm not entirely sure yet. I'm kind of like on the fence. We're gonna try to do some testing this week to see like body mass composition and see what my options are, because I don't want to have to suffer to get down to 170. When I do, I can feel kind of my performance degrades. So we'll see. Would it be easier if we can find an easier way to get my weight lower walking around? We can do 70. But if it's going to be a struggle, I'd rather spend the time putting on strength, maybe a little mass, and go to 85 and just be a short 85er. So we will figure it out.
So you were willing to make a 7-day turnaround. Who would have that been against on this past Saturday's card?
They initially brought up Kyle Dukakis or whatever because like a
Okay.
bunch of stuff fell up. Like apparently, just people kept falling off this card at the last minute. So they're like Kyle Dukakis. I was like, I will do it. I was gonna do that, but New York gives you a 7-day mandatory suspension that they will not lift. So I was still under medical suspension technically. And then the other one was Andre Muniz.
And I saw that you already got a new opponent, so I assume that's not happening.
Yeah, so I said yeah to it. I was like, I am down, let's go. But then someone fell off. So they're like, well, we'll just shuffle this around and give this guy a fight instead of making him wait. So I was like, all right, I got kind of bumped back, but I was down to do it. I was like, let's go.
I'm just kind of curious about this. Did the UFC matchmaker say anything to you after the fight on November 6th? I only ask because I know you said in a different interview that your spot in the UFC roster wasn't like a 100% for sure thing after the Phil Hawes fight got canceled in October. And I believe you said Sean Strickland kind of went to bat for you on that. Did Sean Shelby McMahon say anything afterwards? Like, glad we kept you on, sort of thing. Like, was there any conversation like that?
I didn't see Mick Maynard because he was running around like putting out fires and dealing with that crazy ass card. I passed Shelby, told me good job, and he's talked to my management since then. So they had that talk, but I immediately left after my fight. But they spoke to my management, and apparently, they're like, hey, what does he want to do? And when do we book him? So apparently, they're not too displeased with me.
So you're not fighting this, or you didn't fight this past weekend. You're not fighting this weekend. So when do you realistically want to get back in there?
If I can't get December, I'll gladly do January. Like I would love to fight January. Yeah. Like, I mean, I was trying to get 10 fights this year already. So I plan on keeping a pretty high pace for a bit. So if I can get January, that'd be great. Maybe even February I'll take, which is fine. But the sooner the better. Yeah.
So I was going to say, it sounds like ASAP, whenever someone wants to fight you, whenever the UFC can get you a fight.
I'm 34, man. Like I train 7 days a week, hours a day, every day. Like camp for me is just focus. Like we're just focusing on certain things and fine tuning. But I never have to. I'm not a guy who has to get in shape for camp. Like my day-to-day conditioning level is like what a lot of people consider fight shape. So I don't have the time to say, oh, I want to go fight 4 months from now. Like, no, man. Like, if you can line it up, I'll go do it. I am down. I'm ready to go. Like, I don't have the time to wait anymore. I've got money to make and legacy to build. So, I'm up for it.
There you go. Chris, thanks so much for doing this. I appreciate it. Congratulations again on the big win. 8 days ago, it was a tremendous victory. It was a huge moment for you. I know you know that. And congratulations. And thanks again for taking the time.
No problem at all, man. Thanks for having me. I always enjoy talking to you, man. Like, have a blast and take care, guys.